Okay, happy to welcome Jessica Gibaldo to Open Mic today. She's a good friend of ours, good friend of the city, wears lots of hats, and is really a great person to have around in our great city. And today we're going to talk a little bit about her newest endeavor, which is as the interim executive director of the Charleston Parks Conservancy. So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Mike.
Thanks for joining us, talking about all things green and parks. I think the first thing that people probably want to know is who and what is the Charleston Parks Conservancy?
Well, first of all, I've been a volunteer for the Charleston Parks Conservancy for 16 years, which I believe is the same amount of time you have been in city council, which is amazing. So we're both...
It's a long time of public service, so thank you for your service.
Well, thank you too. So the Parks Conservancy started 18 years ago by a woman named Darla Moore, and she was a resident of Charleston who was walking the streets with her husband and was looking at all the gorgeous architecture that we have, but was also looking at our green spaces and said, it's not keeping up with this beautiful architecture. So she gave a $10 million gift and started our nonprofit. And the whole mission is to inspire people to connect with their parks and together with the organization and in partnership with the city, create beautiful spaces.
Which is an amazing thing to have here in our city, with the Parks Conservancy being just jump-started with a huge infusion of cash.
It's incredible.
And focusing on parks. I mean, parks are the one thing that we in the city own together. They're places of pride. They're places that we spend and recreate. And they really define a lot of who we are as a city and who we are living in a city, right? It just gives life and brings us all together.
I agree. I don't think I could have said it better, Mike. And what I love about the story behind the organization is that it was an individual in the community and it was the city that together felt this was a priority for the city. So for the community. So, and it's continued. And so now we're a much larger organization. Do you know that we have put over $28 million into our parks over the life of our organization?
And that's a good amount of
Those are private
money.
dollars.
Private dollars are coming to our public parks.
Yes.
So what does a day in the life of the Parks Conservancy look like?
Well, it depends what the current priority is. So let's go back a few years when we did Moultrie Playground as an example. And I think that's a good example of what our organization can do for the community.
And that's one that really is a great model that I wanted to talk about today anyway. So thank you for bringing it up.
It is a good model. And so I will say, when a project comes to the organization, what usually happens is this. It's grassroots. It starts with the community that says, we want to do something special in this park. Maybe we want new playground equipment. Maybe we want a finished basketball court. Usually what they do is they call you or another person, city council, or somebody in government, and says, this is what we would like. And then what you now do is you can contact the Charleston Parks Conservancy, and together we can work with you to make this happen. And, Scott Parker, one of our founding board members, says it so well. It's really a three-pronged agenda. You have to have the neighborhood involved.
Right.
You have to have the city's buy-in. And then you have to have the Parks Conservancy, which gets pulled in a million directions to make that a priority.
And works as a conduit, really, to ultimately bring together private funding with public needs in our parks to have these incredible enhancements. I mean, Moultrie is a really great example of a public-private partnership that was brought together. The glue of it all was the Parks Conservancy.
I think that's a great way to say it. The Parks Conservancy is the glue between the neighborhoods and the city, makes it happen. We raised the Parks Conservancy with the neighborhood over $300,000 for that park.
And if you remember what Moultrie Playground looked like before and park looked like before, what it looks like now, it's an amazing transformation, right? It's amazing.
It is. Like when you would walk by Moultrie before that renovation, nobody went to that playground. It was a very sad and lonely, dark
It wasn't inviting.
space. No, it wasn't. And dogs were running around, and I'm a dog person, but they would leave a lot of presents for the kids to walk in, and it just wasn't a great spot. The city matched those dollars, the $350,000, and look at the park now. It's activated. There are birthday parties there. There are always people in the park. It's really an awesome thing.
Got a great and active playground
for
kids and families. I mean, you see it all there. You've got the basketball court still there. big open space too, right? Which allows events. Let's talk a little bit about programming. Is programming, I'm assuming, is something that the Parks Conservancy thinks about in the parks. How do you decide what to do in the parks? How to activate them? Talk a little bit about that.
So again, a lot of it comes from feedback from the neighborhoods and from the community. And we actually do surveys to find out what is important to them. But I'll give you an example. In Charleston Village, we had some homeowners come to us and say, we would love jazz in the parks in, ironically, Moultrie. And by the way, anybody listening to this podcast, we do a lot more outside of Moultrie Playground.
We'll talk about that.
But we did within 3 months, the neighborhood raised the money. They raised the money. Now, we helped facilitate that, and we helped them get all of the, there's a lot that has to go on behind the scenes to allow that to happen. And we worked with them to make that happen. And it was about a 3-month process. And I think they had over 300 people at our first Jazz in the Parks.
And the end result was great. I got a chance to be part of that. It was really an amazing gathering of people, and not just from the Charleston Village neighborhood. People came from all over the city, brought picnics with them, brought some chairs there, listened to some jazz, had some food and a drink, kids. It was really a great community event.
It really was. And there's a newer restaurant that's downtown. They were able to put a pop-up tent there, and people could get to know that restaurant a little bit better. It happens to be one it's very hard to get a reservation in. So I think people were excited about that. And it was a great family event. Very fun.
That's good. So obviously there's more parks than just Moultrie Playground, probably the most visible of which is right next door, Colonial Lake. Mm-hmm. Let's talk a little bit about what's happening over at Colonial Lake. There's been a lot of activity there lately.
There's been a lot of activity. So that was the first major project our organization undertook. And Darla had said she wanted Colonial Lake to be Charleston's largest window box. That was her vision. And so there was a big renovation that was done maybe 12 to 13 years ago.
Right.
But we found that some of the plants that were selected, among other things, they weren't sustainable with regards to flooding and other challenges that we might have in that area, salt water. So we brought in a landscape architect in the last 2 years that worked very closely with the city's landscape architects and came up with a new plan that they felt would have the longevity that area really deserves. And we just essentially did a ribbon cutting, although it wasn't truly ribbon cutting, but we finished the project. It's completed. And the feedback has been awesome. And I will say it didn't start that way. There were a lot of neighboring individuals that said, why are you tearing up this original plan? But they have converted and they think it's fabulous. So we're really proud of that.
Well, that good work was the reason for the conversion. It does look great, and I think it looks like much more sustainable for everybody.
Yes.
So how do people get involved with your organization? How do you get involved with the Parks Conservancy? I'm sure you could use some volunteers.
Yeah, well, the volunteers are the heart of the organization. So what people may not understand is, yes, we do have a HORT team. We actually have 10 people on the HORT team, but they can't maintain all 26 parks. We really rely on the volunteers. And that was the original vision of the organization, was to partner with the community to beautify these parks. Not this is the Parks Conservancy doing it or just the city doing it. Let's bring neighbors in through the volunteer program. So we just launched our, I wouldn't say we've launched, but we just rebranded the volunteer program from Park Angels to Conservancy Stewards.
Oh, great.
And we hired a full-time volunteer manager who came from the Nashville Zoo. He managed the volunteers there. And people were really excited. And so if anyone is interested, please go to our website. Please check us out on social media at Charleston Parks, and you will constantly be giving updates on volunteer opportunities. For example, this summer, we did a Weeding Wednesday, and that was a really fun opportunity to come out with your kids and weed in the parks.
Awesome. That's great. Well, it sounds to me like the Charleston Parks Conservancy is on a great trajectory. The leadership is really strong, and the future is bright. Certainly, between the Parks Conservancy and the city, parks are going to be a central focus for what we do near and long term, right?
Yeah.
And enhancing the parks really, I think, in the end, enhances our quality of life.
I agree. And we're so thankful for your support, in particular, Mike, and the city at large. I mean, we would not be able to do what we do without your support. And thank you for that.
That's awesome. Well, Jessica Gibaldo, thank you for your service to our community. Thank you for coming and enlightening us about the Parks Conservancy. Please go out there and get on the website, get out there and volunteer, and mostly get out there and enjoy How many parks do we have now in the city? We've got 120 plus parks in the city,
And we're in about 26 of them.
which is great. And each one of them gets the attention that really brings it to life. And I think there's been more to that. So thank you for doing all that. And we'll look forward to many more successes in and around the great parks in the city of Charleston.
Thank you.
Awesome. Great.